So here it is, fellas. You want to build the simplest and most effective waste oil burner, the cheapest and the easiest way. This is the device right here. This thing has no oil pump. The only thing you need is electricity. Now, of course, you will have to run this on a triac. This is just a basic router speed controller. That, don't look like this one works. How lucky of me. But at any rate, you would control that blower motor with this. I have many videos on this thing operating, but it used a pressurized oil pump. I've also had other drip feed waste oil burners that kind of had a pulsating effect because I would drip the oil into the combustion chamber. Now I've got the idea that to get rid of that pulsating effect and to atomize the fuel a little bit better, I'm going to be using a siphon configuration. There is a reducer fitting on the end of this blower, and this tube is set directly in front of that blower, so hopefully it gives us a real nice siphon effect. The air pressure coming out of that blower is quite significant, so that ought to be a pretty good burn. I've already used this before, as I said, but I've done some modifications because of the things that I've observed during testing. This big heavy bar, this steel stake that I've welded on here, is a thermal conduit that's meant to bring heat from the front of the combustor back to the rear end of the device. In addition to that, I'm considering running the device with this small end port open so that a small jet flame issues out the back. That would also bring us more heat towards the back of the combustor, because for the most part, it's all just traveling out the front. You can kind of see where the paint has burned away. This area right here will rarely exceed 300 degrees, believe it or not. When you get up to here, it starts to really get hot, and right here, you're glowing red. So I did decide to add an extra beefy FIP, or is this a MIP? Yeah, this is a MIP. I believe this is an 1.5 inch MIP, and I went with a heavier metal instead of just a pipe this time because, as I said, I want to bring some of that combustion heat back here to help vaporize this oil. And in addition to that, when you're firing up any waste oil burner of any kind and it uses synthetic, you have to start off with a little bit of gasoline in the mix. Once you get the forge up and running, really doesn't matter what you put in there. It's so hot inside the forge, if you spray anything in there, you can spray just a straight stream. You don't even need a nozzle. So a lot of this nozzle business that you guys see me doing is just me tinkering around, trying to just observe different techniques of building certain atomizers and stuff, because I have a lot of other ideas in mind. I wanted to build some flash boilers and stuff like that. So I was just trying to build a hotter, bigger device, and I'm starting to stray away from the atomizer nozzles because they're a lot of work, a lot of testing, and they require a lot of machinery to run them. In some cases, you need two pumps, an air pump and an oil pump. Whereas this right here, all we're going to be needing is this blower. This can here is big enough that it runs at a rate you're not constantly filling it. Besides, when you're running one of these, it's something you're constantly watching over anyway. So you would keep adding fuel to this periodically. This here is a valve that enables you to throttle the fuel. And that is about the gist of it. This is definitely going to be the easiest build for you, Steve. If you're wanting to make a forge, brother, I highly recommend you stay away from them spray nozzles unless you've got a lot of equipment already, like a couple of air compressors and stuff like that. You could probably do it with one. I don't see why you couldn't. You would just need a siphon bottle. This little nozzle right here is the one I was telling you about. This little bad boy right here has a little air spike inside of there, and the oil travels through that outer sheath. Nothing sophisticated about this one at all. I have a video on it. This one uses very little air, but it does not need an oil pump. So this nozzle does outdo all the other ones because it doesn't need an oil pump. It siphons. It's an actual working siphon nozzle that atomizes the fuel very well. And that's what I use to run this little bad boy right here. This would make a fantastic forge burner, in my opinion. But the reason I like these better than these spray nozzles is because you cannot adjust the air to fuel ratio as well as you can with these. I can burn a super lean fuel mixture in this thing and get an almost white hot flame coming out of this thing, like a rocket cone. It'll almost have freaking shock cones in it. It's so beautiful. But with these, you get one type of flame, and that's just about it. This here, I'll show you what I'm talking about. We can probably shoot a 4 to 5 foot flame out the front of this thing, or at the same air power, we can have a super white hot rocket flame coming out this thing about this tall. So pretty cool feature about these things is their ability to adjust air fuel ratio so well. These things here are just a huge fight, a huge pain in the ass. It costs a lot of money, and I've built a lot of these guys, so you don't have to take my word for it, but let's hope you don't find out the hard way I did. This is just an adventure for me, these spray nozzles. They're not a necessity. I just wanted to try and build something simpler that could just be run off a simple air compressor hose, and that's what this bad boy right here does. All the other nozzles I'm working on require this oil pump that I've built, which is a fairly little sophisticated build. Because I had most of the parts, it only cost me about 50 bucks, and that was the cost of the compressor. Everything else is from other videos, so that's one of the cool things about doing some of these builds. I have quite the little scrap yard. At any rate, Steve-O, I am going to fire this thing up tomorrow, man, and I'll let you know how it goes. It's a little late to be ripping 110 decibels through the neighborhood. But let's take a little walk around this thing and just look at it. This blower, by the way, let me touch on that a second. This blower can be obtained from a Stanley vacuum cleaner for $20. Fantastic find. This little bad boy right here at Menards or Lowe's runs you about 20 bucks. $20. You go, you take that apart, do some simple modifications. You can see I've done a little bit of soldering and some JB welding to this one. Yeah, with just some minor modifications, what you end up with is a nice little blower motor with a built-in cooling fan on it. So you can't beat that for the price. Definitely liking it. Another thing you'd want to do is this right here is an ignition port. I will stick the blowtorch directly down inside of that during ignition. I would typically fill the cup about this full with some very hot mix, like almost 50-50, 50% gas, 50% oil. Once the system gets up to a little bit of heat, I'll then just start adding pure oil. No gasoline whatsoever is needed once this thing's up and running. However, if you're in a scenario where you feel you want to run a little bit leaner of a burn, you can add more gas, which will change the combustion characteristics in such a way it will enable you to run a very lean, super oxygen-rich burn, which is probably going to benefit the forge guys. That's basically my focus on these builds, is for people building forges. You guys are actually doing something with these things. You know, the whole concept of building these things to heat your house, in my opinion, is or your garage, it is somewhat ridiculous unless you have a junkyard or a couple of oil change stations in your back pocket, because I don't think you guys realize how much of this stuff you're going to be burning if you're going to use it for heat. It's gallons, and it's 55-gallon drums a month. Like, seriously, it's a huge amount of oil. If that's your thing, man, I get it. You may have access to oil that I don't, but I'm lucky to store up 20 gallons a year, which is about 20 hours of heat. So, well, that's probably about 40 hours a week with the way I burn stuff, but there you have it, Steve. I told you I'd throw this thing together for you. It was configured completely differently. This is going to be somewhat of a test run, but I guarantee you this bad boy is going to scream. This combustion chamber is just a hair too small, but I think with this new setup, we're going to make it work. And this is going to be the cheapest way for you to go, I think, brother. I could be wrong. You might already have an air compressor and all that stuff. If that's the case, then forge on, bro. And even if your Delavan nozzles or whatever they're called don't work, let me know how it goes. That's some extremely valuable information to me. I'm definitely interested in failures So any failure footage you have, to me, that's just as valuable as something that does work when you're in the design process. And you know, you may have an idea similar to a guy who's showing you that it doesn't work, and bam, you just saved yourself a whole day's work by watching a 2-3 minute video. So you guys who are brave enough to post your failures, who aren't trying to look perfect all the time, I definitely applaud you. And I'm gonna shut up now. I've been yapping for like 10 minutes. Be a really good micro forge setting right here. It's just once you learn how to use the fuel valve, you're basically in business. When they're just about to go out, I had to open it up a little bit. Boiling oil in there, looks like. my triac, I mean. Starting to get a little windy out here. This is a pretty good sized force plane. As I said, for combustion, heater jets are eccentric. It won't run very well without those jets to heat up the container. Running out of oil. And the knob turned down too low. That's a super rich plane right there. If you can maintain that, that's not going to run. A super lean plane, I'm sorry. That valve sitting there, I don't think there's enough flow. I think this would be good for your mini Ford, Steve. Nice small mini plane. This is running on pure synthetic oil now. There's no gas in this. Now that it's heated up, it can do that. Oh, wow. It's so hot I can't get a reading. See, that oil just barely trickle in there. That is a super bright flame right there. Okay, so now that I got it preheated, got that heat up jet running, I'm going to close this one back up. Need that. I think this is what you're looking for, Steve-O. Super simple. There's no waste oil burner nozzle like this thing. Just do it. Ventura. I'm going to turn it up for a little bit. See what happens. trying to see how low it'll stay running. So I'm going to shut this test down. I just wanted to throw this together real quick for Steve, who's been wanting to build one of these for his Ford. I didn't want him to go out and waste his money on them damn nozzles. They're wasting your money. And unless you just really want to do it, brother, I highly recommend you just build a simple setup like this. This thing would be awesome for the size of forge you told me you had. There's nothing to do. This is a fire extinguisher, some pipe, and a vacuum cleaner blower, propane tank edge, and some straight junk.